Well, good morning, everybody. We're so glad that you're here and able to join us today for the Critical Issues Symposium 2010. And it's my pleasure this morning to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Joel Salatin. For most of us, food appears as if by magic, I guess, on the table or in the refrigerator or on the supermarket shelves. But we can easily forget the farmers who labor to produce the food that we all depend on. And Joel Salatin is a real-life farmer. He raises livestock in Virginia, but he's no ordinary farmer. He's a farmer with a difference. He offers new solutions to age-old challenges. He's a farmer with a gift for writing. He has authored several books and numerous magazine articles. He's a recipient of the prestigious Heinz Award. He was featured in last year's hugely popular documentary film, Food, Inc. Joel has been profiled in Lives of the 21st Century on ABC Network. He describes himself as a Christian, libertarian, environmentalist, capitalist farmer. So for his address entitled Ballet in the Pasture, please welcome Mr. Joel Salatin.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here and to visit with you and share with you this morning. I have about 50 minutes that I'm going to compress this ballet into, so I will work up a lather, and I hope that you will listen very quickly. If we could dim the lights and start with it. Good, we're all done. All right. So the farm is Polyface Farm, the farm of many faces. Dad used to say we're not just two-faced, we're many-faced. And we're located on the western edge of Virginia's Shenandoah Valley. That's important to remember that it's Western Virginia, not West Virginia. We make huge distinctions about that south of the Mason-Dixon line. And the valley, of course, is 80 miles long and 20 miles wide. It was the breadbasket of the Confederacy during the War of Northern Aggression. And by the way, that actually gets people out of their chair whooping in Alabama. The farm is 550 acres, 450 is wooded, and 100 acres is open. Let's make sure this thing, there you go, we're good. Okay, and if you drive up to our farm, you will notice bioterrorism at work. You see, according to the industrial food elite, this incites viruses and pathogens because these chickens commiserate with red-winged blackbirds, indigo buntings, and robins, and take those viral diseases to the science-based, environmentally controlled Tyson chicken houses and threaten the planet's food supply. Our little flock of chickens threatens the planet's food supply. So we live now in an extremely interesting time in this clash of East-West, of Eastern-Western. Our culture is an actual outgrowth of Greco-Roman Western reductionist, linear, compartmentalized, fragmentized, systematized, disconnected, individualized, parts-oriented, all-about-me kind of thinking. And I would suggest that there is an equally valid paradigm worldview from the East, which is both Judeo-Christian, which is both Hindu, Buddhist, Shinto, which is it's about us and its relatives and its holism, and the whole is worth more than the sum of the parts. And when we marry those two symbiotically, we get Eastern soul and Western innovation. And that's when we get synergistic movement in a culture. So I'm going to combine those two ideas as I go through this. If we look at a landscape, of course, it's got three great environments: open land, forest land, and water. And the more we can intersect those environments, the better off we'll be. Now, it's always hard to know where to start in. So we'll start in at the forest and go progressively through other things. Forest, of course, is important for hydrologic cycles, for transpiration, for all sorts of things. But, the capitalist part of me says, how do we create forestal stewardship? We create it by creating value. the reason that you take care of your wedding rings and jewelry and things like that is because they're valuable. And so the way to create stewardship is by creating value. And so we do sell firewood. We use, we take the saw logs out. Notice our multiple use equipment here. One of the biggest problems in agriculture today is single use, intensive, depreciable infrastructure, because it enslaves the next generation to the same paradigm, whether it's obsolete or necessary. There are a lot of things that are great on a small scale or multiple use that aren't on a grand scale or single use. For example, I realize I can't move logs as fast with that little farm tractor and a front end loader as fast as a knuckle boom loader, but a knuckle boom loader would look awfully funny pulling a hay wagon. See? And so it's this multiple use that we talk about, multiple use in land. We need to talk about multiple use in infrastructure. What happens to this great big pad of concrete and rebar and bankruptcy tubes, silos, when the next generation comes back and says, hey, Dad, Grandpa, why don't we turn the dairy cows out and let them self-harvest their grass and drop their manure in the pasture instead of planting annuals, fertilizing annuals, locking the cows up in a confinement situation, and bringing all of this plowed, petroleum fertilized, planted feed to them, and then carting all the manure back out on the fields. Why don't we just let the cows sell? And by this time, Dad and Grandpa, they're about having an apoplectic seizure, saying, whose child are you? Where did you? We spent our lives begging for, remortgaging and bank loans to bend rebar and pour concrete, and you're just gonna walk away and leave it? This is the difference between backyard stills and great big taxpayer subsidized ethanol plants. I have no problem with ethanol. The problem is that when you build this huge multi-million dollar facility out somewhere, let me tell you that infrastructure will drive the paradigm and the policy, whether we need the energy or not, whether it sends all the soil down the river or not, whether it kills all the earthworms or not. The issue is we built that plant, and by gum, we're going to make sure that plant gets raw materials into it, even if it destroys everything within 40 miles. That's the difference when I talk about multiple use equipment. All right, then it comes down, then we can bring the logs down to our little bandsaw mill. These are the ultimate information-based technological innovations now. 800 pounds, you can pull it behind your Honda Civic. It runs on a 20 horsepower Honda engine, and you're in the lumber business. 80 years ago, this thing would have weighed about 10 tons and had big belts and pulleys, and goodness, just the wheel, the saw blade would have weighed as much as this entire mill. This is the information-based agrarian economy now, taking the best of innovation and using, as Kevin Kelly, the editor of Wired magazine, calls in his book, The New Rules for the New Economy, downsizing, restructuring, and miniaturizing. The 120-pound secretary has been replaced by a 4-ounce mail router. And so what we have here is the ultimate miniaturization and downsizing of the value-added timber industry, which allows us to then take these logs, turn them into boards on site, and suddenly take what would normally be worth only $10 in the woodlot and make it value added to $100, and all that value adding happens on the farm in the community. Our area is right now building 500 to 600 homes a year in our county. We're in a confluence of two interstates, and they're coming, okay? And so we're building all these houses, but not two of them uses lumber from within 1,000 miles. It all comes from Canada and Washington State and Ontario, and well, I guess that is Canada. But anyway, it comes from all over the place, okay? But it doesn't come from the local area. Meanwhile, the local farmers are just running their cows through their woodlands, destroying the woodlands because there's no value there because the ships pass in the night. And so what we're after here is a localized economy that value adds right there on site. Then the branches we can all stack with the butts facing one way, run them through our chipper. Dad always called this our communist machine because it makes them all the same size. And then that goes in the hay shed for winter feeding as a carbonaceous diaper to soak up what those cows are dropping at 50 pounds per day. Those cows are dropping this wonderful transmutated fertility stuff at 50 pounds per day. Now, it takes a big diaper to absorb that. In the wintertime, of course, the ground is sleeping, and all the azotobacter and the gibberellins and the mycorrhizae and the actinomycetes, that's my favorite one, they're all sleeping, and they can't eat, whether it's organic or inorganic, it doesn't matter. If you ate at 2 a.m. in the morning a Thanksgiving dinner from a sound sleep, at 3 o'clock you'd be, doing other things. And the soil's the same way. So it either goes through the soil and into the groundwater and out to the Chesapeake Bay, or it vaporizes off in the air. We all know what that smells like. So what we want to do is during this dormant period in the winter, we want to absorb that with the carbonaceous diaper. Notice our barn compared to, this is typical in our area, this is the capital intensive infrastructure that can't move in these new innovative times. So the cows eat through a movable gate on pulleys that we can move up and down to accommodate this thickening diaper. The diaper is made of wood chips, sawdust, peanut hulls, old hay, any kind of leaves, any kind of carbonaceous material. And so the cows are eating through here, and this bedding pack is just building up this big diaper behind them. And of course, they're eating out of this nice clean box. A lot of people say, oh, these organic farmers, it's just where, the men grow ponytails and wear sandals and run naked through the woods on moonlit nights. And the women don't shave their legs, and everybody just kind of sits back, lets nature take its course. Well, if we're not going to use the grubicides, the parasiticides, and all the things that make the meat so bad it kills all the bugs, we've got to institute positive modeling to compensate for the difference. In other words, you can't just say no, no, no all the time. At some point, you have to say yes. You have to have a positive alternative. It's like the difference between complaining and offering solutions. So this allows us to eat in a nice, hygienic, sanitary situation. Then as this bedding pack builds, we add corn to it, and the cows tromp the corn into the bedding pack, which they're tromping out the oxygen, and it's fermenting. It's an anaerobic bedding pack, so it stays fermenting, it stays nice and warm. So when it's 0 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and yes, it does get to 0 in Virginia. I know all you northerners think that southern boys just run around in tank tops, eat goober peas by the side of the road in January. That's not the case. Our frost dates are May 15, September 15. We're in the same horticulture zone as South Dakota. I got to let you absorb that just for a minute. All right? So it gets cold down there. Last winter, we had 60 inches of snow. Now, that was a little bit aberrant, but still, that's the one we'll talk about for a long time. Like I went up, when I was a boy, we had to walk to school uphill, through 3 feet of snow, and then uphill home through 3 feet of snow. Okay. So we add this corn to it. The corn then ferments in this bedding pack so that when the cows come out in the spring, then we put in the pigorators. Now, all pigs have a big sign on their forehead, "Will work for corn." And the pigs then seek out this fermented corn, and in the process, aerate it, fling it. You better get out of the way. It's coming right at you. And they aerate it and fling it and do this wonderful, and then turn this anaerobic bedding pack from a fermentation process into an aerobic scientific composting process with animals doing the work. I'm sure many of you are familiar with these big windrow compost piles, and they run these big compost burners down through them. Oh, that's Neanderthal. That's old school, Letting the animals do the work completely changes the economics and the ecology of it, because the animals don't need their oil changed. They don't need spare parts. You don't even have to drive them or steer them. They don't need drivers. We can go back to the house and read our college magazine. It's a wonderful quality of life things. The pigs do all this work while we just do other things. And what a retirement program. When you're done with them, you eat them. You don't have to worry about all that sort of thing. And so the animals here are doing the work. We're not having to do the work with things that rot, rust, and depreciate. And when we don't have to do things that rot, rust, and depreciate, the profit potential becomes size neutral because we're using appreciating infrastructure. The other thing that it does is that it fully respects and honors the gifts and talents and predispositions of the pigness of the pig. And we think that that is almost a fundamental rule should be in our farming systems and our food systems, is to create a habitat that allows each life form to fully express its habitated physiological distinctiveness. See, we live in a culture that doesn't ask, well, how is this research project going to make a pig happier? Or a pig express the pigness of the pig. We live in a culture that only asks, can we grow it faster, fatter, bigger, cheaper? Now, we all intuitively know that's not a noble goal. If it were, we'd all aspire to be the fattest person in the room. In fact, there's a reason why the average NFL football player is dead at 57. When your neck is bigger than your head, you're a freak, and nature weeds you out. So the point here is that our culture right now, our greater culture, views the living world, the biological world, through an extremely myopic view of mechanism. It's just mechanical, dating all the way back to Justus von Liebig in 1837, who used his little vacuum tubes in Austria to tell the world that all you and I and every plant and animal out there are just rearrangements of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. And I would suggest to you that a culture that views its life in a mechanistic view, in which the animals are just piles of protoplasmic structure to be manipulated however cleverly hubris can imagine to manipulate it, will take that same egocentric, disrespectful, dishonoring view toward its own citizens and toward other cultures. So you see, it's how we create an ethic of respect and honor on the least of these, the pigness of the pig, that creates an ethical platform, a framework on which we hang our entire ethical foundations of how we respect and honor the Tomness of Tom, the Maryness of Mary, and the Janeness of Jane. Are you with me? It's how we respect and honor the least of these that creates an ethical framework on which we honor and respect the greatest of these. And we cannot have a culture that moves to a sacred moral high ground in the world, and unless you are very myopic, you don't realize how much we've squandered as a culture. We can get that road back by having these kinds of, by approaching this humbly and with respect to life. Okay, and another thing is that these pigs now, they're not just bacon, they're not just pork chops, they're now co-laborers, fellow conspirators in this great land healing ministry. See, and it completely changes the spiritual and emotional relationship we have with the animals. They're actually, this is hog heaven. They love doing this. This is exactly what they want to do. This is the steaming compost coming up as the pigs, lie on their sauna. It reminds you kind of Macbeth, toil and trouble and all this stuff. All right, so that's why we do it, you see. I don't know what cow pies look like in Michigan, but this is the way ours look. And see, our problem is that we take our waste and we throw our waste away, and we don't view our waste as the beginning of the decomposition cycle for the next cycle. We call this waste. It ought to be called black gold. It ought to be called something other than waste. And so this is what we want to capitalize on. Now, when the composting is all done, then we clean it all out. We add some trace mineral to it and go out into the fields after the actinomycetes have woken up, and we spread this on the fields when they can eat, and it facilitates them then their ability to make the plants more efficient at collecting solar energy, to make more biomass, to go back through the cow, to go on the carbonaceous diaper, to be the aerobic compost, to feed the actinomycetes, and the whole cycle just moves inwardly instead of outwardly. So we view the farm as this huge solar carbonaceous recycling program, using animals as the facilitator of this carbon cycling discussion. See? So that actually our farm gets heavier and heavier. We're building real estate, building soil every year. Now, when the compost comes out, we can throw poultry netting up around there and have ready-to-lay pullets, sell chickens to all of the urban Dilbert cubicle refugees moving out into their McMansions in the countryside in their little farmettes, you know, and they're looking for something that they can do, and chickens are great. And so instead of cursing all of these influx of McMansions coming in like our neighbors do, you know, our neighbors who have been struggling for a century trying to figure out how to get our stuff to market, the market's coming to us. Embrace it. I've never learned that, you know, the best way to pick a guy's pocket is to give him a hug with one hand, lift his wallet with the other. And so we sell these chickens as ready-to-lay pullets to other people. And then, you know, the pigs have their pig's life. When they're done, they go out into pig pastures, which are roughly half-acre pastures. Now, pigs are omnivores. They can't just eat forages. They're not vegetarians. So they're omnivores. So they need you know, a full cadre of animal proteins, grasses, grains, those sorts of things. A diet very, very similar to a human diet. We are, of all animals, we are, as some of you know, we're the closest to the pig of anything. It says something about us. So anyway, here we are with the local GMO-free grain, and the pigs get moved every time they finish that feeder into a new salad bar. And they can gambol, play, make their choices, sing opera if they want to. They can do whatever they want to in these paddocks. Now, when they vacate, yeah, it looks kind of disturbed. But disturbance is the critical element. These pastures have all been we have not planted a seed, we have not plowed, we have not fertilized anything. The pigs have created this biological cathedral over time, this kind of silvopasture savanna over time, because of periodic disturbance. We've been running these this is the oldest one, it's been 20 years since we've been running these pigs through as management. Now let me say something about disturbance, because I think this is one of the most critical elements of ecological succession. You see, Einstein said you cannot have construction without first having destruction. You know, you cannot build something new without first tearing something apart, whether it's, you know, milling some boards out of a tree or whatever, getting raw material. You know, if you're going to build a house, you don't in the first day have, you know, these beautiful manicured yards and gardens and sidewalks and all that stuff. The place looks like like a bomb hit it. You know, the backhoe comes in, digs footers, you know, and the husband and wife are arguing over the blueprints, and the room should be this and that and the other. You know, if the marriage withstands it, the disturbance, you know, then it's pretty good to go. There's all this disturbance. You know, the Egyptians have a metaphor for the phoenix rising from the ashes. We love to talk about the phoenix, but nobody likes to talk about the ashes. If you want to garden out back, you don't just take carrots and beet seeds and throw them over your shoulder into the lawn and say, well, now we've got a garden. No, you're going to have to get a shovel and a spade. You're going to have to do some disturbance in order to move it to a successionally innovative higher plane. The Marines have the saying, pain is weakness leaving the body. Having a baby is disturbing. But who wants to live in a culture with no babies? They're the spring, the wellspring of new ideas and innovation. All right? And so innovation and succession requires a moment of disturbance. Kind of like salvation requires the disturbance of repentance. All right? It's the same idea. The disturbance. And in fact, if I may go where angels fear to tread, that's the problem with both the Bush and the Obama bailout plans, is that they didn't allow the disturbance to occur that would have been the fertile ground to germinate a new successional group of non-scalawags. So when you see a principle that is consistent theologically, economically, ecologically, and culturally, you're onto something. And so this disturbance is mimicking what nature did for centuries with herds of buffalo and fire. People don't realize that what we now know as the U.S. was a manicured garden. Read the book 1491. Read An Ecological Indian. Read North American Fire by Stephen Pine. I mean, these are all now new informations and understanding of what periodic fire and large herds of buffalo chased by either Native Americans or wolves did across this landscape. And it's that disturbance that freshens up the ecology to germinate and sprout new, highly successional species. Well, we don't have fire anymore, and we don't have buffalo anymore, but we do have pigs. And so we use the pigs with high-tech electric fencing to create a management tool so that we can then massage this ecology into a higher successional plane, using the pigs as a disturbance tool a couple of days a year to move the ecology into what I call my biological cathedral. It's beautiful. And the end product of our farming should be aesthetically and aromatically, sensually romantic. All right. That's what we're looking for. Now, when the pigs finish in the pig pastures and get 200 pounds, they go into the Acorn finishing glens. Using, again, high-tech. This is nylon rope as a poor boy insulator with an electric fence and a computer chip electric fence energizer that we can just run this out through the woods and separate out 3 to 5 acres and turn in the pigs. The pigs then go through, take out what would normally be burned by periodic fires, the mountain laurel there that have very starchy roots. Starchy roots attract the pigs to them, so they dig those up and weed that woodlot. They weed in around the trees. They open this up, create a park-like effect, and create a second tier of vegetation now under the now less briar, less dense woodlot. So you have 2 tiers of leaf production. You have both perennial prairie-type plants on the forest floor, and you have trees up above that are now healthier because of the additional carbonaceous recycling that the pigs are encouraging. So you're actually producing way more pounds of biomass per acre, building more soil, because now you don't have a sterile leaf litter. You have an incorporated aerated leaf litter that's actually decomposing and stimulating all of the biological processes in the soil to digest that now decomposed carbonaceous material. And so you have this wonderful synergistic win-win effect by putting the pigs in the woodlot and moving them. We only put them in 2 to 4 weeks a year, and so it's 2 to 4 weeks on and a whole year's rest before they come back for the next acorn drop cycle. The point that I'm trying to make here is I want you to, as we back up the camera, not only are we getting $300 to $500 per acre per year income from the woodlot. Well, normally, people that own forest land don't get any income except a once-a-generation harvest. So we're getting an annual cash flow. The trees are growing better. We're intercepting twice as much sunlight. We're building soil. And what a pig's life. The point is, there's no reason at all for a single confinement hog facility anywhere in the world. Anywhere. We can use this kind of management technology to vacate all of those concentration camp pig factories and allow those pigs out to fully express their pigness and their functionality. Then when it's all done, they just walk home. And it's like Michael Pollan said in Omnivore's Dilemma at Polyface, all the animals have a wonderful life in just one bad day. All right. Let me just say this. You've got to get over this haven't we moved beyond eating animals thing. Folks, every in this world, everything's eating and being eaten. If you don't believe it, just go lie naked in your flower bed for 3 days and see what gets eaten. It's all eating and being eaten, okay? So here we are. So we go to the open land pasture, and we're saying, how does nature build soil throughout the world? Well, it builds it with perennials, herbivores, and periodic disturbance. And so we go out, we're after perennials, not monocultures, all right? And so we run our herbivores. I know those look like cows, but they're really herbivores. We've got to think about it like that because we've got to understand that the U.S. for years has been inviting farmers like me to steak dinners to teach us this new science-based kind of feeding cows, dead cows. And accusing farmers like me who didn't do it of being Luddites, anti-science, anti-technology, non-progressive. What's your problem, you stick in the mud, And We didn't do it. We didn't feed dead cows to cows, not because we were anti-science or Luddites or didn't like the U.S., or, anything like that. We didn't do it because there is no template in nature in which herbivores eat carrion. So this was the new science-based kind of agriculture. And then, lo and behold, it took 30 years for the slinky to catch up. And then there was this sudden worldwide collective, oops, maybe we shouldn't ought to done that, with bovine spongiform encephalopathy, commonly known as mad cow. All right? So that's why it's so important to get the pattern right, to get the philosophy right. And at this point, all the liberal arts professors jump up and say, yeah. Because it is the philosophy, it is the values-based system, it's the ethics of the system that acts as a hedge of protection against the amoral, innovative capacity of science. You see, we're clever. As humans, we're pretty smart. We're clever, And we're clever enough to invent things and create things that we cannot spiritually, emotionally, physically, or ecologically metabolize. Dad used to call this overrunning our headlights. And we do it all the time. We're a culture of how to, not why. It's like we're lost in a jungle, and boy, we've got the machetes out, and we're hacking through this jungle, and man, we look back, wow, look at how far we've come today. And there, some prophet in the group stands up and says, well, let me climb up a tree and see if we're heading towards civilization or not. We're lost and headed toward a village. So the guy shinnies up a tree, and he looks out and notices that the line we're hacking is going out this way, and the village is over here. Food, water, shelter, whatever. And he says, hey, wait a minute, guys, the village is over there. And they say, shut up, look at all the progress we're making. It's like Stan Parsons, the founder of Ranching for Profit School, says, we've become incredibly good at hitting the bullseye of the wrong target. We figured out how to plant, harvest, and move corn around using GPS satellite technology, and nobody's asking, why should we feed cows corn? So a lot of our research is just to try to solve problems that wouldn't have been created if we had just looked at the natural template and used it as a boilerplate to start with. See? So if we approach life humbly, that's one reason I'm such an advocate of school gardens and children in gardens. I think we really miss it when children don't get their hands in the dirt. We've raised a generation where the only thing we move is our two thumbs in front of a video game. And that video game, if your car runs off the road and wrecks, you wait 10 seconds, it gives you a new car. If you have your battle and you're killing the bad guys, and they get you, you wait 10 seconds and you get a new you. It brings a generation that's unbelievably pumped up on itself in living in this fantasy world. In the real life, if you wreck your car, you don't go sit by the side of the road 10 seconds and get a new one. If you get behind that steering wheel and you're drunk and you run off the road and you kill yourself, you don't get a new you. You don't get a second chance. And there's something about gardening, about growing things, whether it's a window box or a tomato plant in the flower garden, I don't care, but something about growing things that creates a sense of reverence and humility and awe in the heart down here deep. And we need that to bring to our culture. We need that kind of humility. Sorry, you can clap. We need that kind of new humility and reverence toward life, there is something bigger here than me. I can't just push a button and control it all. Coming to life from that kind of humility and reverence, I think, creates a degree of common sense and reason that tempers some of the just pell-mell running toward the how-to, because it asks the why first. All right, so we're looking at these herbivores, and we're saying, how does nature build soil around the world? And guess what? It uses herbivores, perennials, and disturbance. And so what we do is we look at nature as a template, and those herbivores they're constantly moving. They don't stay in the same place. The wildebeest on the Serengeti, the Cape buffalo in Botswana, they're moving. They're mobbed up for predator protection, and the mobbing makes a whole different social agronomic relationship across the field that I don't have time to go into right now. And then they're mowing. They're not eating dead cows. They're not eating chicken manure and dead chickens like we're still feeding our cows. And they're certainly not eating corn, fermented forage, or anything like that, even silage. And so taking that template, we mimic that template. So the cows are moved every day using high-tech electric fencing. All right, I'm not a Luddite. This is not Grandpa's farm. In 5 minutes, I can show you 12 things that Grandpa would have given his left arm to have. These are exciting times, incorporating the technology to better massage and nurture the natural template. Are you with me? Rather than prostitute it, adulterate it, or run roughshod over it. Okay, and so the electric fence is our tool that allows us to manage that four-legged sauerkraut vat and put her in the right place at the right time. This is some of the simple infrastructure. The cows get, of course, very used to moving, so we're making and unmaking this electric fence daily. We're stockpiling forage ahead of these animals for drought and for winter, so that we have this standing carbonaceous biomass, all right, standing ahead of them. This is 100 cows moving into a 1/4 acre a day, all right? There's the electric fence. You can see where they were yesterday. You can see where they are today. Again, the juxtaposition, I mean, one day you can't walk through it. The next day a mouse has to carry lunch to get across it. But this is the kind of disturbance about 2 to 3 days a year only, that's all the cows are there, that mimics the marauding grazing of a herd of large buffalo going across it. That's what we're talking about. So to drive the point home, the upper picture is Cape buffalo, lions, and grass in Botswana, South Africa. The lower picture is cows and electric fence in Swope, Virginia. You see the biomimicry, all right? That's what we're after. And this is what we call mob stocking, herbivorous solar conversion, lignified carbon sequestration, fertilization. And if every farm in America would do this, there we are, we got the shirt right here. If every farm in America would do this, in fewer than 10 years, we would sequester all the carbon that's been emitted since the beginning of the industrial age. How's that? You see, the cow has been demonized by the radical environmental agenda using spreadsheets and data from an improper production model. Actually, the herbivore and the perennial are the single best lung of the earth and have been for eons until this little blip of abnormality that we call the industrial age. We are guinea pigging on the earth. 600 years ago, there were far more ruminants and herbivores in North America than there are today. Even with all the annuals and the petroleum and the technology that we have, there were far more here 600 years ago than there are today. Okay? So it is leveraging that relationship between the herbivore and the perennial that moves this true carbon sequestration forward. So here we are showing cows in February. You see the snow there. Same deal, stockpiled forage. Here we are in the middle of August with 350 head. There's 350 head getting ready to move onto 2 acres. You notice that wild look of that. See, it looks like, mobs and herds. And this is the idea. It's that natural, that native template. All right, water gets to be a problem. So we do an amazing thing. Instead of building ponds and letting the cows drink out of their toilet tank, we actually do amazing things. We put water in a pipe and send it to them. And using simple infrastructure, mineral, satellite farms. We lease 5 farms. We have former apprentices. This is one who's built a little seasonal grass-based dairy on one of our farms. He moves our cows when they're there, and he has a little portable dairy parlor. Look at the infrastructure. Look at the beauty of this compared to a great big, monolithic, single-use, depreciable confinement dairy operation. The cows just come up and milking right there in the field, right where the cows don't have to walk to the parlor comes to them. And germinating young farmers. That's one of our greatest, things right now is how do we create models that germinate new, young, loving farmers and put them as stewards on the landscape. Now, shade becomes an issue. So we have a 1,000 square foot portable loafing shelter. That's us on the left, instead of trees that translocate the nutrients and create incubators for pathogens. Water becomes an issue. So we built a lot of ponds that we then gravity feed. We have 5 miles of gravity fed water, no pumps, no electricity, that gives us 80 pounds per pressure, 80 psi water anywhere on the farm that we can hook into to give us water and irrigation to maintain, again, solar metabolism even in a drought. Those cows drop a calling card. Well, what do we do with those? Well, we follow them with the birds. Looking at nature, birds follow herbivores. Merck Pharmaceuticals, Johnson & Johnson doesn't follow those Cape buffalo and those wildebeest and those bison. Birds follow them. And so the eggmobiles follow the cows. The chickens then free range out from the eggmobiles, and they simply convert the larvae, the grasshoppers, and the crickets into eggs as a biological pasture sanitizer with animals doing the work. See, we've got this notion that in order to be ecologically sensible, we have to sacrifice the economy. In order to be economically sensible, we've got to sacrifice the ecology. And I'm here to tell you, we can have both of those worlds. But it's going to take a major shift in paradigm and production practice to get those things synergized. And so those chickens then, while they're doing the pasture sanitation, they're laying hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of eggs as a byproduct of the pasture sanitation system, see? So it completely changes the economics of the farm. They can come in all sorts of sizes. This is one of our leased farms, smaller set there. The question is, which one would you rather live next to? See, which one creates this beautiful landscape? One of the problems in industrial agriculture is that we have created a repugnant type of model with the smell, the pollution, the inhumaneness, the unsightliness of it. Like Michael Pollan said, an omnivore's dilemma, you know, if we had glass houses on all our confinement animal feeding operations in this country, it would fundamentally change the way Americans eat. And so when you have transparency, then you have accountability. When you have accountability, then you have integrity. Until we have systems that are human-friendly enough to reinsert the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker in the village, we will not have accountability in the food system because it will be hidden from view like these big confinement operations with their no trespassing signs. So this creates this beautiful embeddedness. Again, high tech. This is a poultry netting with polyethylene webbed with little stainless steel threads woven through it. This is space age stuff, but it keeps coyotes, bears, predators out, keeps the chickens in. I mean, who would have thunk 80 years ago that you could have a fence that 150 feet of it only weighs 12 pounds and one person can take it up and put it down in 10 minutes that would be that impregnable? You know, who'd have thunk it? I mean, so the point is that using this high-tech infrastructure now, we can actually have a large-scale pastured poultry production unit that is more chicken-friendly, more hygienic, and more ecologically regenerative than even a backyard flot on a non-rotated dirt chicken yard in an American homestead 80 years ago. Is that cool or what? See, that's what's cool. All right. So then we move them every couple of days. There's the infrastructure. You can put it all in a wheelbarrow. You know, you could pack all this in your checked baggage and take it to a developed country to get their free-running chickens that are under the squat pots and taking all the sanitation, hygiene problems and move them around the village so that there can be cleanliness and sanitation in the village. This is the kind of infrastructure. Now, this is the Millennium Feather Net. This is a new design. This is a scissor truss structure. Same idea that you just saw, but a little different design that allows us to have more chickens in a smaller footprint. Redundancy, whoops. I don't know if you saw the dog there, guard dog. There he is. Thank you. Redundancy, you know, it never hurts to have a little bit of redundancy. So, of course, belt and suspenders, that's good, you know. So this is beautiful, all right? This is beautiful. And, of course, it creates this wonderful magnetic environment. In the wintertime, the chickens come into tall tunnels, hoop houses, greenhouses kind of things, all right? So you've got chickens, you've got rabbits, then you add pigs, you've got pigs and chickens and rabbits. And what this does is it produces way more pounds of material per square foot than a conventional monoculture confinement house, but none of the species is at a density to kick in pathogenicity, and the pathogens that are there are consistently confused because the hosts are different all the time. And so in their world, what happens is, you know, a rabbit parasite, for example, comes out and he germinates. And remember, they've got these little pathogens. You know, they've got to do all of their living. You know, they've got to get diaper, potty trained, kindergarten, schoolyard bully, high school, sweetheart, marry, college, vocation, retire. They got to do all this in 48 hours. And so, Harry hatches out. He looks over here at, in the same rabbit turd here right next to him, and he sees this, hot chick, Matilda, wow, woo. And so they decide to get married and have babies. They're 12 years into their life, which is, almost midlife. They say, all right, let's get together. And so they trudge over. They see, one centimeter away, they see this beautiful hilltop, beautiful house setting, so they trudge over there. But it's okay. They've got time. They started early. Her biological clock is still okay. And so they get over there to this chicken turd, to this other nice hillside, only to find, to their utter dismay and chagrin, that it's a chicken turd and they can't live there. And they don't have time to go somewhere else and start a house, so they just look, well, we're childless, we'll die, and 12 hours later they're dead. And that's the way these confused pathogens live. And so the idea is to create this level of pathogenic confusion to keep them at bay. We're not interested in sterility. You and I are full of 3 trillion bacteria. The point is to create an environment of vibrancy so that the good bugs beat the bad bugs. It's the difference between germ theory, Louis Pasteur, and terrain theory, Michel Beauchamp. Our culture still worships germ theory, and I can assure you that's why there's such a battle in the schools. We have no problem giving free H1N1 mercury-laden heavy metal vaccines free to kids. But boy, you try to pull out the high fructose corn syrup vending machines from the schools, you got a real fight on your hand. If we were really interested in a terrain that was anti-pathogenic, we'd be doing other things. All right, so that's the, and then when the animals come out in the spring, they're only in there for about 90 days during the winter, during the real hard part of the winter. Then in the early March, they come out, and we grow vegetables in there and grow thousands of dollars worth of vegetables in the compost that's debugged and churned up from the animals that were in the hoop houses, okay? Other pictures, okay, turkeys in vineyard, okay, turkeys under a hay wagon. This all works real easy. When the pigs in the hoop house in the wintertime, in the summer, spring, this is the racking house, rabbits above, chickens underneath. We vacate those hoop houses. They go into these nice, big, spacious facility, chickens underneath, rabbits up above. And the chickens scratch through what the rabbits drop. The rabbit urine grows bugs in the bedding that then entices the chickens to scratch to eat the bugs. The chickens then aerate it, and the aeration decomposes it, so there's no exuding ammonia that comes up and then gets in the rabbit nostrils and respiratory systems, and it all works beautifully. If you don't like chickens, you can have pigs underneath. And then the rabbits go into the hairpins. These are hairpins. They go to the end of the field, make a hairpin turn. And the rabbits are eating 75% of their diet off the pasture. And it just makes an unbelievable dining experience. This is our son, Daniel. I know his shirt there says Jerry. But we get these cheap shirts from the uniform store, for people that got fired or died or, whatever. And the IRS lets you completely deduct their clothes cost if it has a name on it. It doesn't say it has to be your name. So, but our son Daniel started these rabbits when he was only 8 years old. He's now 29. He's been running them for 21 years. Started them as a 4-H project. Line breeding, no outside genetics. He checks the livers for genetic purity to maintain, to get his new stock. The cats get into the project too. And then we go to poultry. They come in at a day old in our breeders facility and get a lot of TLC and deep bedding to keep them active. And then at 3 weeks, or less, 2 to 3 weeks, we load them up and take them out into the field, into floorless, portable shelters. There's the first day on pasture. They're pretty small. And there they are 8 weeks later. But we move these shelters every day with a simple dolly. Just pick up one end of it, go around to the other end, and pull. The chickens just walk to the next spot. And so what you've got is, there's day one, there's the next day. You're putting those chickens, again, high density, short duration, 1 day per year. That's a whole year's rest before they come back to that same spot, and maintaining the salad bar with the poultry. It's a very simple system. These are just 10 foot by 12 foot by 2 foot high shelters. We dip and carry water. This is water that's gravity feeding from the ponds up there. Dip and carry feed as well. One person can move 60 shelters or 4,700 chickens in 60 minutes. It doesn't take that much, and the chickens get fresh air, sunshine, exercise, fresh bugs, salad bar that completely changes the omega-3, omega-6 fatty acid profile. Turkeys, they eat a lot more pasture, so they get a little more extensive production. Again, they're in the netting, okay? And the turkeys then are moved every couple of days. Very, very simple shelter infrastructures, all right? This is the gobbledygook. This is 400 turkeys in a pasture. Again, this is the same technology. They can roost up in there. It gives them this wonderful portable shelter. They do all sorts of political stump speeches and everything else. So, you know, they're busy. But all this, what this choreography does is this is a ballet in the pasture that the family can be involved with. It's a choreograph in which the animals do the work in a synergistic, symbiotic, relational-oriented dance. And then the chickens come into our illegal processing facility. And you notice the work crew here. Okay, here's the chickens. This is the killing cones. And then the scalder, the picker. Very, very simple, open air, sanitary. Our chickens are 25 times cleaner in bacterial petri dishes than what's in the store that's been dredged through 40 chlorine baths even. So the idea is, you know, we don't do it every day. We don't do it that doesn't burn out the people. See, I think that this idea of a person killing animals every day, I don't think that's emotionally stable. I mean, even in the Old Testament, the Levites drew straws to be on sacrifice duty. And so this idea of even running slaughterhouses in which people every day kill animals, that's not a healthy thing. And, you know, it creates a problem in your psyche. And so what we want to do is we want to work with the animals. We want the same people growing the animals to be killing the animals. So there's this respect and reverence. We have nurtured you up, and then we do the harvest. And we nurture you up. And this creates a connection and a reverence to the whole system that has great ethical and moral implications. And so the people there create the culture of agriculture, re-embedding, reinserting this value-added component onto the farm to make a chicken that's unbelievable in the world. The guts we compost there on site. We don't feed them back to the chickens like the industry does and wonders why they got diseases. But it all runs on solar energy, biomass. It's all about collecting solar energy. And it's about seasonality. You know, we have sprint times, we have rest times. You know, we're coming into winter now, and within 2 weeks, the last chicken and turkey will be processed, and we're out of that for the winter. We can rest. We can do other things. We can read. We can play checkers. We can, you know, go visit, whatever. But this seasonality creates a wonderful cycle within the emotional framework of the life. What we've done is we've created a very immunodeficient kind of agriculture where we don't want anybody to come to the farms. We don't want anybody to be involved. And so this is the typical farm here. Stop, you know, do not enter. This is called biosecurity. What it is that our plants and animals are so immunodeficient, we can't let anybody come on here because they might get sick. And so this is our side, parking. We want people to come, to get in touch with their food. This is my bride of 30 years, Teresa, taking care of a customer in the sales building. This is a shopper in our, can we back that up? Yeah, it's our son Daniel taking care of a shopper in the sales building. So we have an on-farm sales building where people come. This is our daughter taking people around. This is several years old, but it's just a cute picture, so you just keep it in. She, of course, is chagrined of how old that is. But anyway, the point is that people come to the farm to get in touch with their food. The children can walk. They can pick up the chicks. They can pick a bouquet of wild flowers, you know, for their moms and dads, and they get to touch the rabbits. They get to court. They get to court their dinner. You see, we have this. We've lost our dinner dance partner over the last several decades. Our dinner dance partner. We don't know anything about it. We eat unpronounceable food. It just shows up from somewhere. We are completely disconnected from our ecological umbilical. And so what happens is that we sit down to this very intimate experience called dining. You know, it's a pretty intimate thing. I mean, you're taking food into your body. You know, this is flesh of our flesh. I mean, it becomes bone of our bones. It's a pretty intimate thing, but there's no knowledge that precedes it. It's like prostitution food. It's like a one-night stand. It's like, you know, where's the courtship, the romance that preceded this intimate experience? How do we deserve to have this intimate experience if we know so little about what we're having this intimate experience with? And so we want people to come to the farm to build a relationship so that when they sit down and dine, they can have these wonderful, visceral, sensual memories of respect and honor. Yes, I played with that. Yes, I rolled in the field with that. Yes, I played in the grass with that. And that creates this connection, this relationship with their food. We do food fairs. One of the funnest things that we do is we cook sausages on site, cut them in half, put them on toothpicks, and give them as samples to the children of vegetarians. See, we love vegetarians because once they realize the best way to heal the planet is with perennial pasture-based livestock to sequester carbon and all that, because vegetables deplete carbon and perennials encourage carbon. And so, when you find out that this is the most planet-healing experience, then they have to binge to make up for lost time. They become really great customers. So this is great. So this is on-farm infrastructure. We are putting together buying club orders, on-farm freezers. But this is populating the farm with loving stewards on the land. We collaborate with other producers to go to restaurants. We service about 50 restaurants every Thursday. These other growers of artisanal product come and add stuff to our bus to get economies of scale and distribution. I'll talk about that a lot more in my breakout session this afternoon, how to create a really functional local distribution network. We bring the chefs onto the farm for a chef appreciation dinner to encourage their relationship, their visceral understanding of this, so they can tell the story better to their patrons who come to their restaurants. But it takes all the gifts and talents working together. Teresa does our accounting, but working together with all our gifts and talents, this kind of farming romances the next generation into it. But no matter what happens, sometimes you have a bad day. Things just don't work very well. But if you'll continue to take the high road, the ethical road, indeed, I'm here to tell you the cornucopia of plenty will come to you. You will be blessed. You will find your answers as you continue to seek the truth and seek the righteous path, which will always include people, and people will be either the burr under the saddle or the grease of the wheels. And so this is the apprentice cottage. We just love surrounding ourselves with young people who are what we call bright-eyed, bushy-tailed self-starters, who will then take and leverage our experience and this knowledge and move it forward. This is the energy of the future, the energy of the farm. And this enthusiasm translates itself into a farming system that will romance the next generation into it, which is ultimately the question of sustainability. So as we close, let me just say that as we get the land and our local economy and our relationships progressed to move to the dreams that all of us and the land and the earthworms and the actinomycetes have for their futures, our dreams will be realized. We will be able to run along. We will be drawn. We will be drawn like leadership pulling on a string as we get all of these other relationships below our feet, above our feet, and horizontal to accentuate and to appreciate and to realize their dreams. I don't know what your dreams are today, but I hope it includes healing our planet and leaving it in a better place than we found it. And now may all of your carrots grow long and straight. May all of your chickens be protected from the coyotes. May the coyotes be struck blind at your fences. May the rain fall gently on your fields, the wind be always back at your back, and your children rise up and call you blessed. May we all make a better planet than we found. Thank you very much.